Welcome in on this Tuesday. It is 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel. Please listen as well if you're leaving the house on PGA Tour Radio. That's channel 92 on Sirius XM. I am Gary Williams. Great to have you with us. And this program is always brought to you by Century Insurance. Right by you, their relationships with the First Tee, with the United States Golf Association, of course, with the PGA Tour in that first event of the calendar year in Maui. Golf Pride. The Align Max grip, they're the grips that I've got. They've already won on tour, not to mention the reverse taper putter grip. All the grips they have are trusted by more players around the world. Of course, Peter Millar, when it comes to performance and style, like this hoodie that I've got on today, everything that I've worn for the last 15 years is Peter Millar. And of course, the cradle of American golf, Pinehurst. We announced yesterday here with the help of the president of Pinehurst, Tom Pashley, that Pinehurst number 11 is coming. A Core Crenshaw design right next door to Tom Doak's number 10, which was voted the best new golf course in America that you can play in 2024. All right, today is going to be a day about the pursuit, because a couple of Coles are going to be with me, one in studio and one joining us via the video mix, as we call it. Cole Hammer, it's the pro's life, his journey. He is a contributor to this program, his journey on the Korn Ferry Tour and where he is right now. The last time we spoke to him, it was right before he contended to win on the Korn Ferry Tour. He was a 54-hole leader. Didn't happen that day. Might happen this week in Dallas, who knows? And also Preston Cole, who's the lead assistant golf professional at Quail Hollow, which is going to be hosting the PGA Championship in a couple weeks' time. And tomorrow, he will head south to try to make his way into the field of that PGA Championship. He did it last year for the first time. Can he do it again on a golf course in the state of Florida where he already has a win, the Assistant Professional Championship a couple of years ago? How about his path in the game? They're all different, which leads me to where we're going to begin today, which is the pursuit itself. You know, over the last couple of years, with the way that the professional game has gone, some people think that the meritocracy of the game has been lost to some degree. And I can't argue that the absence of cuts on a week-in, week-out basis on the PGA Tour, some of what is the essence of professional golf has been lost. And it's only in a handful of signature series events like this past weekend with the shorter field. And the workforce on the PGA Tour is shrinking to some degree. But I want you to consider what we've seen already in 2025 as far as people who have won, and not just winners, but people who are ascending in the game or re-emerging in the game. Talent can't be hidden forever. Now, it can hide a little bit more because it may take a little bit longer to make your way through what is now the different steps on the way to the best tour in the world, and that is the PGA Tour. And very few people would argue that. But consider some, well, live cast-offs for that matter, in the names of Rory McIlroy, who played on LIV and went back to the DP World Tour and won, and he was actually in the Players' Championship field. Or how about Eugenia Shakara? Again, another LIV cast-off who's won on the DP World Tour. So he's re-emerging at a very, very young age, but he took a certain path. Look at the Korn Ferry Tour right now, which is supposed to be the breeding ground for the next generation of great players. And I still believe that it is. And I believe that Mike Springer, who is the first winner going all the way back to the beginning of the 90s when he was the first winner on what was then the Hogan Tour, because Mr. Hogan himself lent not only his voice, but really his heart and his soul to the idea that this should be the developmental path for young professionals to make their way to the PGA Tour. But look this year, look who's 1 and 2 on the points list. Hank Lebioda and Josh Teeter. Combined between the Korn Ferry Tour and the PGA Tour, they have in the neighborhood of 500 starts. Josh Teeter is 46 years of age, somebody who has more than 200 starts on the PGA Tour in his career. But he's gone back to the Korn Ferry Tour, and you know what he's done? He's won this year. So is Hank Lebioda, and both of them are destined to probably rejoin the ranks of the PGA Tour next year. But let's go beyond that. Look at just the PGA Tour this year. Look at the story in Mexico with Brian Campbell. Look at the reemergence of someone like Michael Kim or someone like Daniel Berger, who was on a United States Ryder Cup team. Guys who, and this was a great line from one of my favorite movies, Wall Street. Now, I'm talking about the original Wall Street. The character Lou, played by Hal Holbrook, right before Bud Fox is getting ready to be arrested. Well, that, of course, played by Charlie Sheen, and he pulls him aside and he says to him, Bud, let me give you a little advice. Man stares into the abyss, and there's nothing staring back at him. And at that moment, man finds his character, and that's what keeps man out of the abyss. The abyss in men's professional golf might be around the next corner, but we have seen countless stories just this year of players like a Justin Suh, another guy who's won on the Korn Ferry Tour. This is the guy who sat at a Travelers Championship press conference with Victor Hovland, Matthew Wolff, and Colin Morikawa, and you went, those four guys right there, that's the future. Well, for a couple of them, yes, they have ascended to the highest level. And Matt Wolff, he won right away, but then he went off to live. And right now, he's kind of in an ebb, so to speak. There are ebbs and there are flows. And then you can look at the top of the food chain, and you can consider the path of Rory McIlroy and the fact that we thought that at no point was it ever going to dry up. And it's not like winning dried up for Rory McIlroy, but in 2015, that was his first year to pursue what was going to be the career Grand Slam. 10 years later, he crossed that line, and did it look arduous for him to do it? Hell yes, it did. And then most recently is Justin Thomas. Justin Thomas joined a group of people this past Sunday that included the names Palmer, Nicklaus, Woods, McIlroy, and a few others like Johnny Miller, who had won 16 times in multiple major championships before turning the age of 32. But he had not won in almost 3 calendar years. And you start to wonder, is that it? And I doubt that he ever thought that. But this game, the pursuit of being as good as you can be, the game doesn't wait for you to find what you might have lost temporarily. It moves on. It moves on with guys like Blades Brown, who's 17 years of age, who made the cut this past weekend in a Korn Ferry Tour event. And oh, by the way, how about Miles Russell, who joined us on this program a month ago when he won the Junior Invitational at Sage Valley? He went back to the event at the Korn Ferry Tour where he made the cut last year. And this year, he missed it by a shot. He's 15. The game don't wait. You either find it or somebody else will do it in your place. So the meritocracy of the game, it exists. It may have been compromised to some modest degree. But today, we talk about the pursuit. So when we continue, Cole Hammer will join us. It's his life. It's his pro's life. It's his journey to get to the best tour in the world. He was #1 in the official amateur rankings. He won a national championship. He won the McCormick Award. He was on a victorious Walker Cup team. And here he sits in his pursuit, traveling the world, and in particular on the Korn Ferry Tour, to get just there. And then a little bit later on in studio, Preston Cole, somebody who's going to leave, as I mentioned, tomorrow to try to play in a major championship at the club where he is an employee, Quail Hollow Club right here in Charlotte, North Carolina. It's great to have you with us here. It is a Tuesday here on 5 Clubs on Golf Channel and on PGA Tour Radio. That's Channel 92 on Sirius XM. A Pro's Life with Cole Hammer right here when we continue back right after this. Welcome back in on this Tuesday. It is 5 Clubs on Golf Channel, also on PGA Tour Radio. That's Channel 92 on Sirius XM. And appropriately, this segment is brought to you by Peter Millar, because Peter Millar is what I've worn for the last 15 years, and it's what outfits the young man who's joining me now. As you just saw, it's his life. It's his pro's life, his pursuit in this game to being as good as he can be. Not necessarily a true home game this week for Cole Hammer, but down the road in Arlington, Texas. Of course, he was raised in Houston. He joins me now. How are you, my friend? Good morning.
Doing great. I'm happy to be back on the show. Miss seeing your pretty face.
Well, it's good to see you too. This is Veritex Bank. I know that you're proud to represent them, just like you are Peter Millar. That's part of the pro's life. You got to have support from people who believe in you and represent the brand. Since you and I talked last, look, so much can change, including you being a 54-hole leader as you were in Chile. Let's start there, because I heard it this past Sunday with Joel Damon saying, you know what, you learn more in not winning. Let's start with you and what you learned. What did you learn about the way you process things that final day, sleeping on a 54-hole lead? I know you remember most, if not all of it. Let's go through that day. What is redeemable? What is impenetrable in terms of your memory of that particular day about a month ago?
Well, it's funny you say redeemable. I feel like there were a lot of things that I did really well to give myself a chance to win that Sunday. I slept a lot better than I thought I would Saturday night and woke up feeling confident and fairly comfortable. Obviously, I had some nerves and just anticipation of the day and whatnot. But I tried to fall back on some of the experience that I had in amateur golf and in junior golf, having leads. And so I thought I was pretty well prepared. But the one thing that I whiffed on was just the mindset that it takes to win on the Korn Ferry Tour. I think is a little bit different than in amateur golf, just because you have to stay aggressive. And I think that's where I kind of turned a wrong corner. I played pretty conservatively, and out here on the Korn Ferry Tour, guys are just so good. They fly up the leaderboard and aren't afraid to chase people down. And in amateur golf, that's not the case. You can kind of make pars and find your way to the trophy at the end of the day.
Is that something, Cole, that is realized in reflection? Is it something where maybe you're late in the golf tournament, all of a sudden that lead is gone and you're trying to flip that switch to where all of a sudden your aggression has to be renewed, it has to be restored? Or is that something, like I said, that is only kind of captured in your mind in reflection when it's over?
I think it's a little bit of both. Obviously, I've had a lot of time for reflection, and that's pretty much my biggest takeaway. But during the during the tournament or during the final round, I felt it too, because I went out thinking, okay, I'm not going to look at the leaderboards today, and I put myself in good positions and just wasn't capitalizing on these birdie putts. I was kind of being a little bit defensive. And I look up on hole 8, and the crowd that had started following us at the beginning of the day had moved forward to the group that was playing great golf. Logan McAllister had started making a bunch of birdies, and I could clearly see the momentum shift to his side. And all of a sudden, I kind of had to wake up and try to force things. And as we all know, as golfers, when you try to force it, it doesn't really go your way. So that was a huge learning curve, and I think I'm better prepared for the next time that I'm there.
Cole, I'm a big believer in reading. There's a guy, Ryan Holiday, I invoke his name a fair amount here, who's written a lot about stoicism and about certain things that if you can condition your mind in the long run, it's going to benefit you. And one of those things is these are outcomes. They're not distinctly, starkly, like failure or success. Can you get your mind in that place to where it's an outcome? And there's a lot of positives that can be drawn from that. And it's not just some abject failure that he didn't close a 54-hole lead. Is that a work in progress for you?
It is. That was the first time I'd had a 54-hole lead as a professional golfer. So obviously it was tough to take walking off the 18th green that day. But, at the start of the week, if you told me that I was going to come in tied for third and head back to the States with that type of momentum, I would have taken it. And, it kind of sucked in the moment. But I've moved forward, and, I guess like Ryan Holiday said, it's an outcome. And, I'm just going to work as hard as I can every single day, and, hang my hat at the end of the day knowing I did what I could, and kind of let God take care of the rest.
I had this really interesting conversation the week of the Masters with Maverick McNeely, who's, he is having a breakout year. And he has these guys in Vegas that are also high-performing athletes. One's a NASCAR driver, another guy might be an extreme athlete, and they call themselves, and maybe he doesn't even want me sharing this, the Flow Boys. Like they spend time talking about all the things that they can do to get in that very elusive space of being in a flow state, and one of it is nutrition. How do you try to manage the things that you're ingesting so that your body can be in the best place for it to react and respond to a mind that is processing a lot of different things in the heat of moments, especially in contention late? What do you do about nutrition?
So that's a great question. I think it comes down to consistency at the end of the day. Obviously, it matters what you eat, but if your body is used to consuming something, let's just say Thursday morning, and Friday morning, Saturday morning, Sunday morning, and then you switch that up, all of a sudden you're kind of sending your body different signals. And to be in that flow state, you want to be able to give yourself some stability to come back on. And I think nutrition is the easiest way to start that. So, when I get to a tournament, my caddy and I go to Whole Foods and stock up on pretty much the same stuff every week. And we will cook it, meal prep it. And, that'll be our breakfast and dinners for the week. And then I pretty much eat the same snacks every day. So just trying to kind of give myself that consistent baseline so that I give myself the best chance to mentally be where I want to be. And then hydration is a huge aspect of that as well, because if you're poorly hydrated, that can affect the way your brain functions and the way it communicates with your muscles. And so we need full control of that for 5.5 hours. I wish it was 5 hours or less, but unfortunately that's not quite the case.
No, it isn't. I got to share with people, you were telling me during the commercial break that you were sitting at a table recently outside of this country, and Ryan Armour, of all people, is sitting across from me. Cole, that alone speaks to how interesting this journey is. Ryan Armour played against Tiger Woods in the U.S. Junior, and here he is still out there, a self-described mule, still trying to chase it and still trying to be as good as he can be. I don't know that you're sitting there at that moment going, man, this is really cool. This is Ryan Armour. He's been doing this a damn long time. But isn't that an interesting aspect? Here you are, you're at the beginning. I'm not saying he's at the end because he's probably going to make $1 zillion after he turns 50. But that this game can allow you to not only keep the lights on, but believe that you can be better tomorrow. And he's a shining example of it.
There's no question. And I would like to consider myself maybe not a historian of the game, but I have a ton of respect for the guys that came before me. And so growing up watching the PGA Tour, guys like Ryan Armour were always at the top of the leaderboard. And, to give him credit, he still is. And not up until recently, he was killing it on the PGA Tour. So it's fun to share the fairways with guys like Ryan, and I guess that self-proclaimed mule characteristic of a career. And so, yeah, it's fun, and it's definitely encouraging to a young guy to see someone love the grind and love what professional golf has to offer as a career. Because he's pushing 50, and but he's not showing signs of slowing down, and it looks like the fire and the drive is still there. And a lot of times, maybe that can be lost when things aren't going well. But I think it's a true pros mentality to kind of just keep your head down, and Ryan's a great example of that.
He is. I mentioned at the top of the program. You look at the Korn Ferry Tour standings. I know Hank Lebioda, he's 31, but he's got a lot of experience on the PGA Tour. Josh Teeter is 46. He's got a win already this season. And you look at that and you go, you know what? Keep your head down. Keep believing that success is always under construction, and move forward like you're doing. I want to ask you, because I think this is something that can benefit whether it's somebody who's 14 years old who's getting ready to walk out the door to go to school and he's in ninth grade, instruction and taking instruction and being a good listener, but not maybe overanalyzing what it is that you're being asked to try to do. I know the person that you work with, and he's one of the good people in the game. He's got a great soul. When you spend time with your instructor, how do you know that he knows that you're listening to what he's trying to impart upon you?
Well, the man that we're talking about here is Bruce Davidson.
Yep.
He has become like a second father to me. He was the head pro at my home course growing up, and now he spends most of his time at Congaree in South Carolina. So I think I might have gotten my first lesson from Bruce when I was about 8 years old, give or take a couple years. And so he's been with me throughout my entire journey in this game. And he's imparted so much wisdom on me. He's a great player in his own right. He played some, really impressive golf while he was a head pro, and he subscribed to the Harmon theory,
Yep.
where the head pro should be the best player at the club, and he was, and he's played in some senior majors, and so from a player perspective, I really respect that, and a sponge listening to someone who has been there, done that, versus not taking a shot at other guys, but or other swing coaches when they haven't experienced what it's like to hit a shot under pressure or try to make a putt to qualify for a major or win a tournament. I think that's a skill, and that's something that he's able to impart on me. So my ears are always open, and the best part about our relationship now is it's an open line of communication. We talk almost every day. He reaches out after good rounds, bad rounds, and everything in between. And if something's not feeling quite right, I'll go to him, and if he sees something that doesn't quite look right, but I'm playing well, he'll tread lightly. So it's all about performance, and then if I come off a rough stretch, he's the first one to comfort me and say, look, this is a blip, and we're going to get through it, and we're going to work hard and see what happens. So he's just a steady, like I said earlier with nutrition, it's just another baseline for me to come back to when things aren't going great. And then he also has one of the best senses of humor that I've ever been around. So it's always a good couple of days at Congaree.
No, it is. I know you took a picture that I was touched by, because I've taken the same one, and that is pausing and looking around at your environment. It was late at night. There's a schoolhouse on the property there. Powerful things happen in that room, and I know that that's not lost on you, and I know that fills your tank as well. Let me ask you about a couple things going on that I want to get your thoughts on. Rangefinders, the idea that these now can be used during competitive rounds. We saw it this past weekend at the Heritage. Is this a game changer, and if so, why?
I think it's a complete game changer. I hope it is a permanent rule change for both tours and professional golf in general. Just because, I like I said earlier, I have a ton of respect for the game, and playing by feel and using sprinkler heads. But a lot of times, some of the courses we play on the Korn Ferry Tour aren't that well marked, and that's just the way it is, and they do the best they can. But it can take time to find these sprinkler heads, and that can be an attributing factor to some of these rounds taking so long. And this past week in Florida, I just got the rangefinder out and buzzed the flag, and that saved us probably 30 seconds at least. And so my caddy and I were able to get into the shot earlier, if that makes sense. And so I had the number. We would subtract how far the pin was from the front of the green, and then bang. And then all that we're worried about is the wind and shot selection, versus sometimes we get to the ball and it takes forever to get the number, and then we're almost in a rush, especially if we're on the clock, to try to beat that 40-second mark before we get a bad time. So in the long run, I think it should improve pace of play, especially if you hit it offline, because it's really hard to figure out angles and get numbers from sprinkler heads that are in the fairway if you miss the fairway. And so I'm just excited about the possibility of it speeding up play, although incrementally in the short run. And then, by the way, on tee boxes, it's so great to be able to shoot the covers on bunkers and how far it is through the fairway. And, we didn't have that opportunity before. So less math, more ease. Maybe that's just me wanting to take the easy way out, but it was nice to be able to use those guys.
No, look, if the refrain from everybody is let's make it quicker, and if this is a practical, efficient measure to do so, those same people cannot push back now on the idea of the institution of using them. Last thing, I want to show people an image that you sent me, and this was 2015. This is Chambers Bay, and this really, to me, amplifies just how much can change. That's you on the left. The guy on the right just completed the career Grand Slam. And oh, by the way, you were 15. He at that time was your age now, 25. He had just finished fourth at the Masters, which was his first opportunity to complete the career Grand Slam. And Cole, 10 years later, and just a little bit over a week ago, he just did it. What does that say to you?
Well, I think Rory said it best in his press conference. And it's just to never give up. I mean, I was looking at that picture. I just randomly came across it, and I paused in my tracks. I thought it was pretty powerful because 10 years ago, while it maybe at face value doesn't sound like that long. Well, oh, it's just 10 years ago. I mean, I felt like Chambers Bay was a lifetime ago, and so someone in Rory's shoes who has had that, burden on his back for that amount of time, I can't imagine it. Just because he's been kind of the figurehead for the modern game for such a long time, and he's had to deal with so much and trying to compete at the same time. And so watching him complete the career Grand Slam last weekend was extremely powerful. I sat there and stared at the TV. I didn't get off the couch from 1 o'clock until that last putt dropped, and I watched the whole green jacket ceremony and everything. And I was a little bit emotional just because Rory's been my favorite player to watch ever since I can remember. And obviously, I thought the final round of the Masters was a bit of a microcosm of his career. I mean, ups and downs and wins and losses. Like, you look at his career, he's won pretty much everything there is to win in the game, except for this last Masters leading up to it. FedEx Cups, Race to Dubai's, Players Championships, yes. and then he'll have close calls at majors, and it just seems like it was the same story every year. And as a young guy, as a 15-year-old back then, I had those, and I still do have those same dreams to win majors and to complete career Grand Slams. But when you kind of get into the thick of it and you start thinking about a career in professional golf, sometimes those dreams can kind of be lost. And not that my dreams were lost by any means, but they were rekindled. And I'm sure I'm not the only one. Just by watching that sheer emotion come out of him on 18 green, it was a look of relief and dreams being realized. And so that was something that I thought about when I was going to sleep that night, and have thought about every day since. And so, yeah, that picture there is pretty, it's pretty wild to think that it's been that long. And I'm so happy for him and his family that he was able to, triumph last Sunday.
Very well said. And by the way, in that 10 years for you, winning a national championship, being on a victorious Walker Cup team, ascending to #1 in the World Amateur Rankings, a lot can get done while you're still trying to pursue these other dreams. So it's great to see you again. Looking forward to reconvening in about a month's time. I know you're going up the road to Arlington. It's nice to play an event in your home state that means so much to you. I know you'll get great support. Thanks so much as always.
Yeah, thank you, Gary.
All right, there is Cole Hammer. It's his life. It's a pro's life. Speaking of another pursuit, another path in the game, Preston Cole is going to join me in studio as he tries to play in the PGA Championship at the club where he's an employee, Quail Hollow Club. We're back with you. It is a Tuesday edition of 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel and on PGA Tour Radio, Channel 92, Sirius XM. We're back with you right after this. Welcome back in on this Tuesday. It is 5 Clubs here on Golf Channel, also on Sirius XM, Channel 92, that of course, PGA Tour Radio. And in this segment brought to you by Golf Pride, players at every level trust Golf Pride more than any grip in the world. And I mentioned at the top of the program, you know, the theme of this show is really about the pursuit and everybody's pursuit. Life is not linear, and we know that you can take different paths to the same end result. And joining me now in the studio is somebody who wants to play in the PGA Championship at the club he works at. He's working either way. He's either going to have a tee time or he's going to be doing Lord knows how many different things. Preston Cole, who's the lead assistant at Quail Hollow Club here in Charlotte, host of the 2025 PGA Championship in less than a month, is with me in the studio. Good morning.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me, Gary.
Well, it's good. It's good to have you here. You had the experience last year. Give everybody first, before we talk about what you're getting ready to embark on. I saw you about a month ago, and you're built a city out there.
Right.
How does that golf course look right now?
It is perfect. Keith Wood and his team have done incredible things to the surfaces everybody will be playing on. It is in as good a shape as I've ever seen. And then outside the ropes, everything that the fans will get to come enjoy is going up quickly, and I think we're officially done building structures. We're just completing the interiors now, and so we're in a good spot. You know, less than a month out. We're excited for the championship to be here.
I know you are. Look, the club itself has such a great ethos about championship golf, and is made is concerted an effort to provide not only this city, but people who watch these great tournaments every year at Quail Hollow the very best experience. And I know that this is the second PGA Championship. Different time of the year. We'll get back to Quail because the difference between August to May is significant. Let me give people an idea as you share with us your own path. You play golf collegiately at Furman. Your brother was a very good player, was a college teammate of Bud Colley at Alabama. Your wife can play golf. How about your path to where you are now? Why did it take you in the direction it took you?
Yeah, I think being a PGA professional wasn't something I grew up thinking was my path. I tried to play professionally after leaving Furman for a little while, and moved to Charlotte to follow my now wife, who was working at Quail, and she kind of got me started at Quail with Scott and the team, and still trying to play, but part-time at Quail. Then COVID hits and world turns upside down, and Quail becomes a full-time gig. Let's see if this is something I want to do. My wife Grace and I said, let's see if this is something we can do full-time together, and it was great. We loved every second of it. Now 5 years later, we love. Grace has now stepped away, but love being there, and couldn't think of a better place to be.
You know, you mentioned, as we're looking at some of the highlights of you playing, and you've played at a very, very high level. You won the Assistant Professional Championship. You finished 8th last year. That got you into the PGA Championship. Trying to be as good a player as you can be, while also knowing that is not your primary responsibility
Right.
at Quail Hollow. And you also mentioned Scott Davenport, because to me, that's kind of where it begins. You have to have somebody, and Scott has been a leader in the industry, and in the fact that Quail Hollow has had 2 head golf professionals in the history of the club. Yeah. It wasn't open 10 years ago.
Right.
It opened in the 60s. You got to have a boss that advocates for you, that gives you that latitude to do it. How important has Scott been in your path?
Huge. Nobody's been bigger. Not only from a work standpoint of teaching me everything I know at this point and allowing me to learn the industry, learn how things work, but also giving me the flexibility to go play in these major events. You know, this is not exactly ideal timing. Getting ready to leave tomorrow, we have a major championship in just 3 weeks. And so to have that flexibility is huge, and have not only a boss, but a membership that loves somebody that can play. And whether that's getting out, the last week or so with some members and trying to see where the game is, but also having a boss that says, hey, that's important too. I think it's huge.
How do you be efficient with your time where you have all these things going on? You'd be busy anyway. You'd have a regular tour event if you were not having a major championship. It's that time of the year at Quail. What do? Have you figured out kind of your own system of creating enough time for you to try to be as sharp as you can be to try to get into the PGA Championship?
Yeah, I think for me, I've kind of scheduled it out this year. I had a small event early in the year to kind of see where the game was, and then spent a lot of time in the weeks leading up of, hey, let's get these couple things dialed in that were off. And now it's, hey, go play golf. Let's really test it, whether it's with Johnson Wagner or Harold Varner.
How in the world can you get better playing with Johnson Wagner?
Well, we have some fun out there. He was my partner last week when we won, so that's always good. But
what's it like to carry 200 and some odd pounds around for a couple of days?
Well, no, we ham and egged it nicely the other day. I'm not worried about him.
By the way, that footage we just saw, Mac Everett, who can still play golf, who's been very important to championship golf at Quail. Let me ask you about the membership, because it's not just the general membership. You mentioned Harold Varner and obviously Johnson Wagner, Webb Simpson. You've got Mackenzie Hughes. You've got guys who play this game for a living. How much time have you had a chance to be around these guys, whether it's playing competitively, getting out there in a money match, trying to be on edge and be as sharp as you can be? Have they been supportive of you and giving you time? For sure. They are all four of those guys have been great to me, whether it's bouncing ideas off of them of, hey, what works, what doesn't, especially as we led into Valhalla last year of, you have 10 days from the end of the professional championship to the start of the PGA. Hey, once I get there, what do I need to look for? What do I need to do? And they were great at finishing playing with Johnson the other day. He said, hey, anytime you need to call me in the next couple weeks, whether it's leading into PPC or while you're there, like, please don't hesitate. And he's been a great resource for me over the years. The challenge of going down and trying to win the PPC, the professional championship that you're getting ready to embark on. First of all, you've won on the golf course. You won the assistant professional championship there in Port St. Lucie a couple of years ago. So I know that you have good memories there. What's it like, though, to try to be aware of the next shot you're hitting, while also you got to be not consumed by it, but you know what the threshold is. You know it's 20. What was that experience like last year that you obviously accomplished the goal? You got into the PGA last year. How do you manage that as far as focus, but also awareness of the kind of the grander scheme here? Yeah, I think going into the week, last year I went in with the mentality, hey, I want to win. Kind of felt like in the past it's always been hey, let's go make the cut. Let's make the first cut. It's the hardest one to make, cutting down to 90 guys from 312. But if you make that first cut, you got a chance at the top 20. Whereas last year it was, hey, let's go in trying to win. If you don't quite accomplish that goal, you're probably going to still finish in the top 20. So it's not over aggressive. It's not trying to do crazy things, but it's, hey, let's go down there and try to win this golf tournament, not just finish in the top 20. And I think that makes the top 20 a little easier. It takes some pressure off of that. Now, coming down the stretch, it's always a thought of, hey, last year I didn't necessarily have a chance to win coming down the last few, but needed to stay in the top 20. So it's you make sure to not be too aggressive, but not too conservative. It's interesting that you just said that, because whether it's talking to Cole Hammer about being a 54-hole leader or listening to Joel Damon, and he said something that I think is so important for people to understand, the body doesn't necessarily always react to what the mind is trying to tell it. So you're not going to win, but you also have a little bit of cushion. What do you remember most about the last 4 or 5 holes coming down the stretch last year, trying to hold your position inside that 20? Right. I made a great birdie on 15. They played it up
the last day, and most of the guys drove it up around the green. I drove it just off the bat, got it up and down, made a birdie, and kind of settled the nerves of like, okay, we're in a good spot now. Like, we can kind of coast in. 16, 17, 18 are not the easiest finish, but a little easier than ours at Quail. And I hit 2 good shots on 16, came up just short of the green, thought I hit a great one in there, and chipped it down there close and missed a short one. And it was like, okay, like we're still fine. 17, I hit it right in the middle of the green and one by, and it's like, hold on, 3-putt 17. Now it's like, okay, we're staying on 18T. We went from big cushion to, oh no, like let's hang on. And
right.
18 at Frisco is a tough driving hole, and drive it okay, lay it up, and I hit a wedge in there to 15 feet or so. And my caddy Matt looked at me and said, "Preston, you need to slow down. Like,
wow,
we got to slow down going up to the green here." And rolled it up there decent, had 3 or 4 feet to finish off, and at that time thought it was kind of knew, hey, if this goes in, we're good. And
yeah.
So everything you work for, everything you want to do is riding on one putt, but was able to kind of lean on the work I put in ahead of time and knock it right in there.
What do you take away from the Valhalla experience? Because that's a big moment at
Right.
Frisco for sure. But then you get to an environment that the enormity of it all is it's hard. It's sensory overload. What is the most memorable aspect of the whole week playing in a major championship?
I think I've talked to a lot of guys about, hey, I was so impressed with who I call the regulars out there.
Yes.
Guys that had no business spending any time with me, no need to tell me anything, were great. They told me things maybe I wouldn't have picked up on naturally. But then the big part of the week is enjoying it with the family. Having not only myself but Grace and then our friends and family there, and we all stayed in one big house together. It's memories we'll have for a lifetime, and Valhalla will always hold a special place in our hearts.
The last time a professional played at his home club was 1992 as Jerry Tucker at Belle Reve, and the circumstances were different. Back then, the PGA of America would give an invitation to the host professional. You've got to go earn your way. Are you trying as best you can to compartmentalize that? You know that the goal is to play in a PGA, but I know there's added incentive.
Right.
Have you done anything to try to make sure that you don't let that be added pressure?
Yeah. I think the club has been great. Obviously, the members and the staff are excited for the opportunity of that. But everybody's doing their best not to add any pressure, and I think I've added enough pressure to myself. But I was talking with one of my juniors that I teach the other day. He asked, "Hey, are you nervous? Or do you get nervous?" And I said, "It's this time leading up that is the most nerve-wracking. Of once I get there and can get a tee in the ground, get the ball in the air, we're good to go." And I think it's easy in the down times to let your mind wander, but once we're in the moment in the arena, it's easy to kind of escape it and just say, hey, we got to hit the next shot. We got to do everything we can to win this hole in front of us.
Well, I know that the membership at Quail, you're a very, very valuable asset to the operation, but I know that every single one of them wants you to not have to do what you normally do that week, because they're going to be rooting like hell this week. Thank you for coming in.
Yeah.
Best of luck this week. Either way, we're going to see you at Quail in a couple weeks. I hope it's with the tee in the ground. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Gary.
All right, that is Preston Cole. We come back. Some final thoughts on this Tuesday edition of Five Clubs right after this. Final couple of minutes here on this Tuesday. Matt Adams coming up next. His program, Fairways of Life, here on Golf Channel. Tomorrow, we will have Dogs of the Week, Club 5, our picks, not just for the Zurich, which is a different element, obviously, with the team concept, but also the Chevron Championship. We will talk to Tom Abbott. He will be joining me on the program, getting his thoughts on the first major in the women's game. And I will have my thoughts on where kind of the state of women's professional golf is, and the fact that if you look at where purses are now, they have taken a very, very significant leap, not to mention in terms of the money, but the exposure. the added television as well. And also, we are expected to be joined by the Højgaards. Yes, Nikolai and Rasmus expected to join me as well. They are in the field this week. Making betting favorites with Rory and Shane Lowry as your defending champions. Do with that the best you can. It's better that we have a team event. I can't pick somebody who finishes in the top 25. Meanwhile, Johnson Wagner is off back-to-back winning weeks. He had Rory at the Masters. He picked JT at the Heritage. He is on a roll right now. One final thought, though, about kind of this conversation we've had today, and that is the pursuit. I look right now at the FedEx Cup standings, and you can value them any way you want. The bottom line is that they are a benchmark and a barometer of performance. And you look at some of these names, like Michael Kim, who, as I mentioned earlier, stared into the abyss and said, "Nuh-uh, you're not taking me away from this game." How about J.J. Spawn, who is a winner? He's got a couple of seconds and a third as well, not to mention guys coming back from injury as well. Just keeping the lights on is one thing. It's another thing to ascend to maybe where you were before or going to a different level. Hope you've enjoyed this Tuesday edition of 5 Clubs. Looking forward to Wednesday. Have a great rest of your day.